Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new Church Lady Women's Conference edition of Bring on the Sabbath. I'm so happy to welcome Nancy White and Brandy Webb here tonight with me.
Hi, Lisa. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Oh, good. Thanks for coming. I'm so excited. So, we've had a little bit of a switch up of our schedule tonight. I've been going on and saying that Dr. Anika Sandy Hansen would be here, but her flight was delayed twice this morning, and so we will not have the pleasure of hearing from her tonight, unfortunately, but we've got some good stuff going here with these two and myself. So we're just gonna have a party.
We can talk. We can talk more.
Yeah, you know we're good at that.
Read more from the chat room or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so excited to have both of y'all here. I mean, I miss Jeff. Of course, he's in the background over there.
We can't miss
I see him. And the guys are here with us, and some of our kids are here with us, so we're having a good old time here.
And we had our pizza today. You guys have a studio audience.
Yeah, we had our pizza. Yeah, and Amy Ho Hertz, who's usually online, she's actually going to be here with us in the studio audience too.
Great.
So, well, and now we need to also have you tune in tomorrow for sure, because we're having the new Church Lady Conference. And all the women out there, we want to invite you to come and just be spiritually refreshed with us. Also, I wanted to let you know about our webcast for tomorrow's services at 11. We are going to be having Herb Hansen, which is Dr. Anika's husband, come and speak to us. And I'm not sure what the topic is, but I'm sure it's going to be great. I think he did the service for us last year. Is that right, Jeff? Did he do the actual speaking service, or was he just on Bring on the Sabbath last year?
Both.
He did both. Okay, so this year we are going to have him speaking again, and we're looking forward to that. And you can see it on all of our channels, which I'm going to let you know about all of our channels that are in the process, and that'll be at 11 a.m. And of course, we'll have our Madonna service also at 10 a.m.
And tomorrow, not tomorrow. The bot schedule coming up is they'll be back next week on April 27th with Mike Nolan.
Yeah,
and then Mike's going to give the sermon after that too,
yes,
right? The next day, so they're putting him on double duty.
Yes, we usually do that to most everyone that we bring on to Bring on the Sabbath.
Well, that's a smart way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're excited to have Mike. I hope that Pam. I'm not sure if Pam's coming with him. The three of us actually enjoyed going to South Carolina and doing a women's conference there.
For Pam, that's right. She had a women's conference. That's right.
So we've got a lot of good memories with the Nolans over there, don't we? Now for our stations. We have some new Roku, and we also have an Apple TV station now, or channel. And if you want to find those, you'll go to the Apple TV or the Roku, and you'll look up CGI Network, just like you see on the screens back behind us. And you'll see replays of Bring on the Sabbath, Bible studies and sermons, as well as the Armor of God program. And you're going to just search for CGI, and you will find the channels. Right now, we have about maybe just a couple of weeks of archives, because Jeff just got it set up a couple of weeks ago. But once it gets going, we'll have about 3 months worth of archives at any given time. So hop on over to those new channels and check us out. Now, Nancy.
Yes.
The reason for this whole women's panel, Nancy, what do you have for us to let us know about a whole bunch of the highlights of the women's conference?
Great. Well, let's see if we can get everybody's appetite whetted. If you weren't planning on joining us online tomorrow, maybe this will help you, or come in person. We'd love to have you here.
Oh, absolutely.
We got plenty of pizza for tomorrow night, but a lot of it's going to be broadcast. That's right. We start off tomorrow at 2 p.m. officially. This is sort of an unofficial appetite wetter, but tomorrow we start with praise and worship presented by the CGI Family PEP Praise Band. I don't actually know if that's their name. That's what I call them. So,
yeah.
Is that your official name?
Sure.
All right. Well, I thought you might have had something.
You have officially named us.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now it is patent pending.
Yeah.
All right. I'll provide the opening keynote at 2:45. So we got that's plenty of time for praise and everything. So at 2:45, I'll start with my presentation, which is titled "It Ain't Heavy, It's Important," and I'm focusing on Matthew 23:23, which is sort of the key scripture, the weightier matters of the law. At about 3:45, Dr. Anika Sandy Hansen, who's a PhD in educational psychology and the former chair of CGI's Infuse program and former editor-in-chief of the Infuse magazine, will give a keynote presentation about the bait of Satan and its impact on tithing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I still remember her last year's about checkmate.
Yes,
The importance of chess in our church.
Yes.
I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting. I still remember that though.
And that should be posted somewhere, I hope, Jeff.
Yeah,
yes.
it is.
Okay,
it's on our CGI.
We did
YouTube.
We did
It's on our
Facebook
YouTube.
Live and then posted them. So that was great.
It's on there.
But the internet was sketchy last year, and so that's one improvement this year. Good internet, so we'll be able to broadcast everything. Okay, so all of that up to that point will be broadcast, the music, the speakers, on all of CGI's outlets. And if you don't know what they are, you weren't paying attention to Lisa because she told you. And then she'll tell you again probably. But you can always just go to the website and find us there. The rest of the evening activities will not be broadcast. So sad we'll have to say goodbye to you at that point. But if you're here with us, you'll actually get to be a part of some get to know you activities next. With Karen Metcalf and her daughter Sandy Stevens are going to lead those, and they've got about an hour's worth of activities to help us get to know each other better.
Right.
And then we're going to wrap up the evening with roundtable presentations on some of the faithful people presented in Hebrews 11. So we've got 4 different roundtables on that. Then on Sunday morning, we're going to start again bright and early at 9 a.m. with a devotional focused on breaking free. And we'll be live on the internet at 9 a.m. Then we'll have a panel discussion moderated by Sandy Stevens that includes lessons in dealing with grief presented by Paula Hughes, and how to mentor broken women presented by Latricia Powell, who does a lot of mentoring of broken women herself. During that time, there'll also be a teen Bible study in a different room. So since it's in a different room, it will not be broadcast.
Right.
But it's Lisa doing that.
That's
and
okay.
It's titled,
You've actually seen it before. It's my 7 words of praise.
yeah. And I understood it was very good and very well received. And I believe I watched it. So at that time. And then, that won't be, that will be more of an interactive thing you're doing with the teens in another room. Then we'll get back together, and Linda Benton's going to present her mission trip to Africa. So she went to Africa, and there'll be slides and things like that about that. And then we're going to wrap up the conference with Paula Hughes, who's a 30-year veteran of adult education and public speaking. And she will give the final keynote titled, Just Sweat the Big Stuff, but what is the big stuff? So again, all of the program on Sunday, except for the Teens Bible Study, is going to be broadcast on all the CGI outlets. So you can join us online if you can't join us in person.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic schedule. I can hardly wait.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I can really hardly wait. I'm so excited for this year's conference. I'm excited to interview you just to talk about some of our previous year stuff too. But we'll talk about that later. So.
Okay, so. There's a Book of Hebrews study Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We apologize that Adrian lost connection on Monday due to bad weather in Toronto.
It happens.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh yeah, it was
bad weather a few nights ago down here. So we will be redoing part 2 next week.
Okay, great. So they didn't really miss anything. That
sounds like a great idea. Okay, now another thing that we need to talk about is summer camp. Our summer camp, the Ignite Summer Camp, is going to be from July 6th through July 10th, 2018. If you need more information, you can go to cgi.org/camp. Now, we do need several people to go ahead and get registered if you have any interest in the camp, because we need to know, for planning purposes, what we need to do with the people that are actually registered. It doesn't mean that you have to pay. The payment's not due, which the payment is only $99.
That is a great value.
It's such a value to go to this camp. And I know that the schedule's a little bit different this year, but we really do need to know what the interest is in this camp so that we can start scheduling and preparing for all the kids that are going to come. Again, we have from age 10 to 17. And we are so excited to provide this camp for you guys at such a low rate. But if you are definitely very interested in coming, go ahead and sign up. And if you have to back out, we'll deal with that later, but let us know. And the payment is not going to be due until around June, the first part of June. So get your kids signed up as soon as you can so that we can plan for a great experience for them this summer. Okay. Now, let's look at some online comments. Brandy, Do you see some people on there?
Oh yes, quite a few, and I apologize because it keeps like logging me out because couldn't remember my login information. So I'm signed in as a guest. So if it changes from a capital B and then to a lowercase b, it's the fact that I keep having to relog myself in.
Oh no!
But we have William one who says Happy Sabbath, and Margie and G Ray, and so
that's Grover Ray.
Oh, awesome!
Well, see that Grover changed his handle then.
Yes. I think so.
So
over
it's
time.
nice to see everybody on here.
Yeah.
And Rick number 4. Rick 4.
Rick 4. Okay. I see a lot of happy Sabbaths and, you know, how's everybody doing? And I love that. I love being able to fellowship online, and I love to see all of y'all's fellowship online too. On Facebook, we have Amy Ho Hertz, who is actually in the back watching. And we also have Trudy Cranford. She's quadruple dipping. Oh my goodness, Amy! You've got.
She must have
She's on every
I'm sorry, Amy. You have an addiction. You need help. I'm kidding. I love Amy. She's actually staying with me this weekend, so I get to love on her even more. So we also have Trudy Cranford and Jeff Stills with us tonight. We have Deborah Collins Falmer. We have Brian Renaud and Robert Kennedy. Tammy Gilbert from the Texarkana area. How are you doing? Robert Kennedy again. Did I say that before? Yes. Okay. Sorry. He posted twice. And Sharon Trammell and Sarah Hendricks are all with us on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so glad to have you all here. And let me go over to our YouTube channel where we have Mimi and Carl are both on there tonight.
Hey, hi Mimi and Carl.
And we also have Posen Auto, who Jeff always says who it is, and I can't remember who it is. I think I've seen him before on something else too, so that might be a double dipper too. But we are so glad that everyone has decided to join us here tonight, and we are looking forward to just kicking off all the good stuff that's coming up. So for now, we're going to go to our first commercial break. So we'll see you back here in just a few minutes.
The Bible tells us that we should not forsake the assembling of ourselves together, but some people can't always attend worship service on a regular basis. This happens when people are ill, or if they can't drive, or if they live too far away from other brethren. At the Church of God International, we encourage you to fellowship with like-minded Sabbath keepers. But if you can't attend with others, please feel free to attend with us online. We meet every Sabbath at 11 a.m. Central Time. You may join us by going to the website www.cgi.org. That is www.cgi.org. Experience the love of our Sabbath services. You will hear God's words explained. You will hear music that praises our Heavenly Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. Don't miss out on this opportunity to keep God's Sabbath in a joyful manner.
And we're back. Hey guys, before we get started, I wanted to remind you of something. This is our third week counting into Pentecost, and also our sunset time is somewhere around 7:55 now.
Already.
Wow.
8 o'clock.
So we're getting closer and closer to 8. We're really bringing on the Sabbath tonight. And we're bringing it on with being here for the new Church Lady Women's Conference. So if you just tuned in, you're seeing lots of women here. And you're seeing Brandy Webb and you're seeing Nancy White. And y'all know Nancy White. Y'all know her as Miss Nancy from the Buckaroo Bob Puppet Show. She is also the Director of Sales at SFG, where she works. She's also the Vice President of DCM, Dynamic Christian Ministries, and the co-host for Start Our Sabbath over on the Wesley White channel on Facebook. And I am so glad to have her here tonight. It's so fun to see a familiar face over here with us.
Well, I'm glad to be here too.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Nancy, it was about 3 years ago now when you came up with this plan, roughly 3 years, I think, to start the new Church Lady Women's Conferences. What was your motivation and what were you wanting to accomplish when you thought of this?
Okay. Well, basically, Lisa, it came from like Titus 2, the responsibility of the elder women to teach the younger is expressed there among other places. And I am an elder woman on this stage anyway. This can certainly be done, casual, one-on-one, and it's done often that way. But women do enjoy and benefit from like getting together in a group, a big group or a small group, to study the Bible and to get into the Word and dig into the Word together. That's why we have a lot of women's Bible studies pop up around. So this was brought home to me more at the first conference I ever attended, which was run by the late Linda Hardy White, who at the time was a well-known figure in the Church of God movement. And after Linda passed away, a few of us women in the Big Sandy area took up the idea of having a locally hosted, Sabbath-keeping focused women's conference in Big Sandy. And around that time, too, several other people started, of the different Churches of God movements, started having their own women's conference as well. I attended conferences with Peggy Wooten and Pam Nolan. You mentioned that. The three of us spoke for Pam's conference. And by the Tulsa Church of God, we had a conference up there as well. So those are some of the conferences that had been started about those times. While these conferences were open to really women of all faiths, they were most often created by and funded by and attended by Sabbath-keeping women, which is great. But the new Church Lady Conference, for this we envisioned a local conference that more fully crossed organizational and congregational and fellowship lines, where Christian women of a variety of churches could help plan the conference, could speak at the conference, and different churches would support it. And then we could all come together just to fellowship and praise and for education in the Word. And I began to feel like this was an idea whose time had really come, like it was time to cross those lines. Luckily, Charles Gross bought into my vision, and CGI was the first sponsor. Either that or I scared him. I don't know.
That could be quite possible.
So that was really how we came to have a local conference.
He's probably watching that. He'll get a kick out of that. Well, awesome. Well, where did you get the main thrust of the idea for the new Church Ladies #1 conference?
Right.
It was what was it again? I can't remember now.
Oh, it was just New Church Lady. Yes, and we had the tagline, "This ain't your Church Lady." Yes,
yeah,
that's right. New Church Lady. Yeah,
that's right.
So the idea of a new Church Lady image, mainly because I felt like the term Church Lady had mostly a negative connotation here, even here in the South. When you say, a devout woman, a lot of people think about someone who is, sort of stodgy and real downer, and someone who is judgmental and things like that. Years ago, Dana Carvey portrayed the church lady, and his image was funny but also very sad, because it really showed that image was actually out there. That's what some people thought about when you think about church ladies.
Yeah. Just uptight,
sort of exclusive, no fun, that type of thing. So in the new Church Lady Conference, we wanted to focus on what was great about being a Christian and a Christian woman. We wanted to show the love and acceptance of sinners, not sin, that Jesus offers, and we wanted to show that women of faith are supportive, strong, educated, and can have fun. Even as we follow the admonition in Titus 2 to be reverent, self-controlled, pure, and so forth. So we wanted to give women of faith a venue to be educated, to support one another, to strengthen one another, and to share hopes, dreams, concerns, and prayers, and eat together. We do a lot of that as well.
Yeah, that's always
it's an important part of women's conferences.
I mean, if we're not having food, we're having snacks like in between all the time.
That's right. There's always food out. And so then that's why we came up with this Ain't Your Grandma's Church Lady, which we still use now. So that, new, fresh, something different.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I remember that first one. It was so fun. I remember doing the music for it. And it was a great conference. It was really good. Now, what were some of your takeaways from it?
Well, one of the main things that I took away was that this vision, this dream, this opportunity that we came together and planned could be realized. Kind of if you build it, they will come. That you can trust the guidance of the Holy Spirit across church culture lines, as long as you have the same goal and adhere to the to the purpose of the program, and that women still love to get together to fellowship in the word. In fact, they crave it. They really just want to get together at any time they can. Those were some of the key things that we learned from that conference.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Well, shortly after this conference, you and your team of helpers started planning a second conference. It was like within a few weeks we got together. I remember that. How did these takeaways that you were talking about shape the next conference? Where did you start? What happened there?
Well, we were mainly influenced by how much these women hungered for this type of program. There wasn't a lot of it out of there, not a lot out there, not a lot in this area even, and that they really wanted the opportunity to just get together. They overwhelmingly asked for a larger conference when we did the surveys that year, a longer conference.
Longer.
And also that like things like the round table where it's more interactive and they get to know you activities were very, very important, a big hit. So those were some of the huge takeaways.
I noticed that was like a little bit longer this time in the schedule. The getting to know you stuff. Yeah, I remember that. Cool. So what was the byline of the second conference? What did y'all actually...
The owner's manual.
That's right.
Meaning the Bible, of course. Yes.
Right. Cool. Okay, so how did the second conference compare to the first conference in your mind?
It's kind of difficult to compare them, but I think the experiences were unique. Each met different needs. There were different subjects. They offered different areas of education and encouragement. Certainly, we had many new attendees in 2017 who hadn't been there in 2016. And it was, it was a longer conference. We mentioned that it included Friday night, all day Saturday, and a half a day on Sunday. So those were some of the big differences there.
Right. Well, my main thing that I remember, and this is kind of off of the chart that we talked about, but was that in the first conference, we actually had a whole bunch of members of a church in Gladewater. Not a church, but a women's home. Oh, yeah. And they were there, and they kind of influenced that first one a lot, in my opinion.
I think they did.
And then on the second conference, we didn't have the same, like you said, we had so many different people, it kind of just shaped it differently.
Right.
So how did the takeaways change that second year?
Well, first, we realized that the more you provide, the more women hunger and thirst for more. So I think if we'd done a 3-day conference or a week conference, we'd have, take a cruise, whatever. And that's a good thing. No one said it was too long or there was too much singing or there was too much fellowship time or too much education. So that was good. Second, sadly, we learned that we really don't have the resources locally to do that long of a conference year after year after year.
Right.
So, and it's not the support groups, the monetary support is there. Church of God International, Christian Educational Ministries, and Dynamic Christian Ministries are all very generous in their support. And the women who come, they give more money in donations. So it's not a financial thing. We just don't have the manpower, the women power for all the needs that are to be done in planning.
The worker bees.
We don't have that, and we actually don't have a large slate of available speakers. We have people who speak, but life gets in the way and things like that. So you need a big pool to pull from in that case, and we just don't have it here. But I also learned that if you just boldly ask people to do something, sometimes I guess maybe they're afraid to say no, and they'll actually do more than they even think they can do, reach and stretch. And I got plenty of people to do round tables that were just like, oh, I can't speak. It's a round table. You're just talking to people.
You're not really speaking. It's just like talking to sisters sitting around.
That's right. However, we have to be realistic and understand that, we really have no business right now at this time trying to put on a conference of that length. It just stretches us too far, and we all have families that have to come first and jobs or careers that we need to think about. So.
Well, it's nice to know that we have that outlet, though, in between, like the Feast of Tabernacles, which is a major conference that we all can attend.
That's right.
I mean, it's not a conference, but the celebration of it. Okay, so here we are at NCL number 3, the Weightier Matters.
That's right.
What inspired that byline?
Well, it was influenced, of course, mainly by Matthew 23:23, where it talks about judgment, mercy, and faith, but also the idea that when we focus on weightier matters like judgment, mercy, and faith, as outlined in Matthew 23:23, and also things like loving God and our fellow man, Luke 10:27, and providing for the less fortunate, which is a lesson of Matthew 25, great things happen and the world around us becomes a better place. It's far too easy for Satan to trick us into focusing into less weighty matters. And he can take our eyes off Jesus and off serving one another and off things like love and mercy. We want to focus back on what's important.
Awesome. So do you have any major expectations for this conference, like specific ones?
Well,
Other
Really-
than the focus of women getting together.
Well, really what I expect is that we'll all be wowed by what the Father brings to this conference, because no matter what the planners
That's
do,
true.
no matter how much
Yeah.
the speakers do, no matter what the volunteers do, and no matter how detailed and scheduled we are, it all comes down to the blessings, inspiration, and provision of God. So I expect that we'll each make some new friends. We'll strengthen bonds with old friends who've been here before. And I should say longtime friends, right? Not old friends.
Right.
I expect it'll be an experience that is both very personal and very shared at the same time. And I expect we'll have plenty of fun and laughter. And I expect that women will leave feeling nourished by the Holy Spirit and the Word. Again, not because of anything the planners or the speakers do, but because God is generous. And when people get together to fellowship for education, edification, and worship, He's pleased to be there. And I expect some great singing. Not by me, by the P&P band. And we have special music, so I
I know
expect
a couple of special music people in the room, actually. In fact, almost everyone that's doing special music but two are in this building right now.
That's right.
So what would you like to say to anyone who is still kind of straddling the
If
fence
you're
on
on
whether
the
or not to come?
fence, try at least logging in for part of the conference. Join us online. You'll be able to chat. We're going to read your chats, and if you have questions, you can answer them. So please join us. But if you're within driving distance, an hour or two, take the time and come. You don't need any money. You don't need to pre-register. We'll make you a name tag when you get here, or you can stay anonymous. And just give us a shot. Come for part of the time, see what it's like, see what you like. Give us guidance for next year and tell us what you'd like to see next year, or volunteer to be a part of the organization.
We always need that.
We always do.
Well, I am so pleased that you came and gave us like just a background for those of you who are maybe new viewers to Bring on the Sabbath and don't know very much about NCL. Well, now you do. And we hope that you can join us online or right here in this building. And
Tell your friends. Bring your friends.
Thank you, Nancy, for coming
You're
tonight.
welcome. Thanks for having me on.
I know that y'all aren't able to have Star our Sabbath because of you being here, and we really appreciate the sacrifice that you made for us.
Thanks. No problem.
Okay. Well, now we're going to go to our next commercial break. So we'll see you in just a few.
Hi, we'd like to offer you some free literature on today's program. We want to offer you, have the Old Testament dietary laws been abolished? Are the clean, unclean laws God gave to ancient Israel enforced today? Were they given to the Hebrews only, or did God give them for the benefit of all mankind? Get this pamphlet to learn more. We also want to offer you why we keep the law. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. Matthew 19, verse 17. Please get both of these pamphlets and learn more about this interesting subject. To get both of these items, all you need to do is call toll-free 1-888-578-8791. That's 1-888-578-8791, or visit our website, www.cgi.org. That's www.cgi.org.
Oh, hello, we're back. Oh. Well, we didn't know we were back. Sorry. Oh, okay. Well, now I'd like to introduce Brandy Webb, who is our resident blogger. She's from Avenger, Texas, and she is here with us tonight to give us a presentation about ordinary people.
Yes. I was just inspired a few weeks ago or something about actually it was about a month or so ago, just thinking about, sometimes you get those moments where you're like, I'm just so, what's so special about me, and like what can God use? And I don't know, it was just the whole idea with the weightier matters and realizing, faith and the people in the Bible, and it's like, wait a minute, these people were just ordinary people. They weren't like, Superman or something. They were just ordinary people that God used in extraordinary ways. And I wanted to, I know I wrote a blog about it, so I wanted to kind of expound upon it a little bit more tonight because it's still been on my mind. And I think that's like kind of encouraging to kind of empower us and give us like some hope. And that's what my whole goal is to edify people and edify myself. Because I usually blog about stuff that I'm learning on, that I feel like God is teaching me because I have a long way to go.
And we all do. We all do.
So we have a Bible that's full of profound stories of faith and sin, renewal, miracles, forgiveness, and punishment, and many other lessons that still apply to us today. It's a living, breathing organism, I think. Well, not literally, but it goes with every year. It's like it makes sense. The Bible gives us hope when we doubt, strength when we are afraid, faith to keep moving forward, love when we feel unloved, and many more positive affirmations. What is totally awesome is that most of these stories that encourage us are about normal, everyday people, just ordinary people like you and me. For me, it's encouraging to realize that God doesn't need superhumans to do extraordinary things. In fact, we can see from 1 Corinthians chapter 1 in verses 27 through 28 that God is known to call the foolish things of the world to shame the wise, the weak things of the world to shame the strong, the lowly and despised things of the world, and the things that are not to nullify the things that are. He does this so that we can't boast. We can give God all the credit. We know that everything that we're able to do that we're like, wow, I can't believe I just accomplished that, we can say it's because of God, because nothing's impossible with his help. He can mold us and transform us from ordinary into beautiful, faith-moving, God-fearing, extraordinary person. The truth is, God can use anyone to do extraordinary things. He is able to do far more abundantly beyond that we ask or think because of his power that works within us. So let's just look at some of the so-called ordinary people of the Bible that have, that are profound. Jacob, he was a deceiver, yet God still blessed him with fathering the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph was sold by his very own brothers, was a slave, was imprisoned, and then he ends up, through God, transforming into the second highest, most powerful person in Egypt. Moses, as far as I can tell, I guess he had like a speech impediment. I always think of him, maybe he had a stuttering problem or something.
He was a little bit argumentative with God.
Yes. He also, that's why I was like, he doubted God. Here he has this burning bush, and he's like, no, I'm sorry.
I'm not doing that.
Right.
He was also a murderer and an exile. However, God used him to lead a whole nation out of Egypt and towards the promised land.
Yeah, I think he got his back, though. Those Israelites got, it's kind of like people would say karma. The Israelites really gave it back to him more than he gave it to God. So he got payback.
Like those times when God's like, your people. He's like, no, these are not my people.
What you talking about?
No.
But he was like this, everybody knows the story of Moses. And then he went from, so, he did not want to do it. He did not want to do it to something extraordinary. David was most likely a teenager. He only had 3 brothers that were old enough to be in the army, and he was a shepherd's boy out in the fields, and he slayed Goliath. Peter denied Christ 3 times, yet he's now known as one of the greatest apostles. And he and John surprised many people on Pentecost by their teachings because they were just common, ordinary, everyday people, according to Acts 4, 13 through 14. That's 13 through 14. That's what people accused him of. How are they doing these extraordinary things and saying these great teachings when aren't they just ordinary people? Then there's Paul. He was totally transformed from the man named Saul, who persecuted God's people, into a man of such profound faith and teachings that his letters make up most of our New Testament. These men are well known. Their testimonies are as important now as they were thousands of years ago. Now, truth be told, God doesn't just use men, though, to do extraordinary tasks, because in God's eyes there is neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, neither male nor female, for we all are one in Messiah Jesus. And if you want to prove that, you can go to Galatians 3:28. So let's look at some ordinary women that God used for a purpose.
Great idea.
So there's Ruth. She was a Moabite. You know, they were not, I mean, they were looked completely down upon. They weren't even supposed to, they were unclean.
Right.
And she chose to serve God. She clung to Naomi and was like, I will serve God and I will follow you. And because of her devout faith, she is actually in the lineage of her Messiah.
That's right.
Then there's Anna. She's an 84-year-old woman, a widow, who fasts and prays every day in the temple. Her story's in Luke chapter 2. She is devout. She is called a prophetess in verse 36 of chapter 2.
Right.
Serving night and day with fasting and prayers. And just like the priest Simeon, she recognized the baby that Mary brought and Joseph brought in as the child to all those waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. Then we have Priscilla, who, with her husband Aquila, traveled with Paul to Ephesus. What is interesting is she and her husband are always mentioned together. There are 6 references. 3 of them Aquila is mentioned first, and 3 Priscilla is mentioned first. Paul considered both his co-workers in Christ Jesus. That's what he calls them in Romans 16:3. They both explained to Apollos the way of God more accurately when they met him in Ephesus in Acts chapter 18. And let's not forget Mary, the mother of Jesus. She was most likely just an ordinary betrothed young woman, yet she found favor with God and was chosen to birth the Son of God, Jesus our Messiah. One thing that is awesome is in the event when Gabriel is telling her what's about to happen to her, and then he tells her about Elizabeth, who was her cousin, who's in her old age, is like the second Sarah type incident. You know, now she's not going to, she's no longer barren, she's going to have a child, and Mary's just like blown away by all this. Gabriel says, for with God, nothing will be impossible. There are many more, but for the sake of, well, given I probably could have added more in here.
That's okay. We didn't know about Nika. That's okay.
Yes, I was planning with Nika coming. I wanted to keep it short to give her more time. So, but anyway, things happen and planes get delayed.
That's right.
A lot.
That's all, you know, can't control those. But there are many more women. There's Sarah, there's Deborah, there's Esther, there's Miriam, there's Mary Magdalene, there's Mary and Martha. I think Mary is a very popular name in the Bible.
It is very, especially in the New Testament, there are a lot of Marys.
Yes, and then there's quite a few that I should have put in there that's also mentioned as, you know, a prophetess or a disciple, an apostle. You know, they have.
You know, one that really strikes me is, was it Naaman's wife's servant girl? I mean, she was just a girl, and she actually witnessed to her mistress, who then passed it on to the master, that, you know, there was a healer in Israel that could heal, and he went and got healed. So
That's right. Yeah.
So God can use a variety of people.
Yes, that is definitely true. It's like, luckily when he says these, you know, we have gifts and fruit of the Spirit, he doesn't say, but this only goes to this group of people and this only goes to this group of people. Right. We're all one in his eyes, and it's nice to see that he can use any of us to do extraordinary things. And
you don't have to already be extraordinary for God to use you.
Exactly. In fact, I think like the scripture says, he likes to take the lowly. It's like the, what is it called when you have the team that's
the underdog?
The underdog, yes. Yes, he likes to bring up the underdog and like, wow, they become the conqueror. So all he just needs in order for us underdogs to become conquerors is just to believe in him and to trust him in everything, to have that faith. He can do the same things through us like he did through our predecessors when we walk in faith. Our stories have yet to be fully written, and there's no telling what God may do through us. And so when we read the Bible, we should feel inspired because we follow the same God that these people followed, and he did impossible things through them. He can do impossible things through us.
Right.
Therefore, the scripture from 12:1 that actually inspired this whole idea was this scripture in Hebrews 12:1. It says, "Therefore, let us also, seeing we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising its shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God."
It's amazing.
Really
I was thinking about you when I was reading my devotional. Now, I do the Believing God Day by Day devotional by Beth Moore, but only when I travel. So recently, I was on the December 30th day, and I just want to read what she said, and then I have a question for you. Okay. All right. She said they did not receive what was promised. So the faithful, since God had provided something better for us. Hebrews 11:39-40 is commonly called the Hall of Faith. Right? It's God's testimony of flesh and blood faithfulness. But while all of those mentioned here lived lives of faith and gained the evidence of many promises, none received every promise in their earthly lifetime. Verse 40 says, they would not be made perfect without us. And still quoting Beth Moore, dear one, you are the continuance of Hebrews 11. It concludes in verse 40, but I think God might have each of us see ourselves as Hebrews 11:41. When he pens the final dot on our earthly timelines, his lasting testimony of our lives will be what we did by faith. So how does the idea of the book of Hebrews, or the faith chapter 11, not ending at 40 and not being the end of the faith chapter, support your points and about faithful people being just average? So do you feel like that supports you, what you're trying to say?
I was thinking that since I know we have the Bible as it's complete for us for right now, but the New Testament, when the people of the new, followers of the way, when after Christ had died and rose again, there was no New Testament at that time. All they had was the Old Testament. But yet their letters and stories inspired a whole nother addition added to the Bible, which is, it's called God's Word, and it's like, I think if God chooses to, He could add maybe something else if He wanted to later on. Like it isn't finished. It's not. It's like it's not finished until we hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Yeah. So in the millennium, maybe there'll be a book of Brandy or something. Compilation of your blogs or something. All right, our book of the CGI congregation. How about that? Or something like that.
So now you're making me think about, so that was kind of a time of revival. And not long ago on Bring on the Sabbath, I did a presentation about revival. There are certain periods in time where those revivals take place, and these ordinary people become extraordinary people through God.
Yeah, and
it's happening it's been happening since the beginning of time.
And it seems like the revivals usually happen when it seems like things are at their darkest point.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes we as human beings need that to push us to greater faithfulness and to actually do something. Because when we're rich and increased with good, right, like the Israelites, we tend to forget God and get distracted by things. Lisa, this also made me think about the presentation, I guess, last week on Bots, where you were talking about church kids, about bringing our kids up. We're raising them to be people who would end up in Hebrews 11, and we can't do it, to your point, unless they feel ownership in the church, like it's their church, or otherwise they leave. We've got kind of a missing generation in there.
We
like
really
the decade of my kids, they're just, most of those kids have left.
It feels like it's like the people around me, like I know that when I was younger and in the Worldwide Church of God originally, and all the teenagers that I knew at that point, I've actually found them on Facebook, I've become friends with some of them. But I can only think of a few right offhand that are still in this faith. The Sabbath keeping, keeping all the Sabbaths faith, because so many have fallen away because I think it was just because of the way that the church was structured. And I mean, unfortunately, it didn't taste good to the teenage mouth, back then. It just was a sour taste.
And I feel like there were a lot of changes in the world around us, and maybe the church wasn't as quickly responsive as they needed to be at that time. A little more set in their ways, like we old folk can get. Not you guys, me. So I would like to ask both of you if you have a favorite just average person of great faith that living or dead, or from the Bible or something like that. So do you have a favorite just average person of faith that like this person you connect to when you read about their lives, or you actually saw them be very faithful?
That's a good question. Boy, I don't know. I see it a lot. I know I don't I don't want to put him on the spot, but I really see just in the last few weeks, and I was talking about this last Bring on the Sabbath show, but as we were going through the Passover season, I don't know if y'all saw Wynn's presentation about, continuing the Passover or the season of the Passover as we go through the, just throughout the whole year. But I never fail to just when I'm looking at Jeff, he has such a magnificent faith and so much just power. I mean, he has this uplifting spirit to, get people going in the right direction. And I feel like God's really working with him, and it really kind of seems to be pushing me too as a person. I just feel like, I know if Jeff can do it, I can do it.
Well, that's what being a faithful witness is all about, right? That's why we have the faithful witnesses of 11, because they spark us to do more.
Not just him, but my husband, he is the prayer guru. He has lists and lists and lists that he's always adding to and always praying. And I just think my prayer life seems so shallow compared to him. I just really need to stick into that more, and I find myself losing time here and there, but he is so diligent about it. And there's people all around me that I see, little glimpses of faith that I wish I had, or more things in that area. So yes,
that's great.
I think
two great examples.
Yeah.
One that stands out for me is, well, there's a couple, but my mom and my husband. And some of my coworkers that I work with, but my mom especially, she still holds on to her faith, and she's been through a lot, and a lot of just real sad circumstances, but she's still holding on, and she doesn't give in to despair and depression. Now, I'm not saying that she doesn't have moments,
sure,
but just because anybody would have moments, but she still holds on to it. So it's like it hasn't destroyed her faith in God. It's just she's just waiting for him to help her see what good can come out of tragic circumstances. And with my husband, he's just whole calm, collective, just
nothing ruffles him, does it?
It does. Every once in a while, it's surprising, but it's just he's always had this just hey, God's in control. Why even worry about it? Type personality. And I'm like, I do enough worrying for both of us, so it's a good thing that he's like that kind of.
Okay, Randy.
Yeah.
Watch out on that worrying.
Yeah.
Although, it's taken maturity to get me less anxiety and less worry in my life. And maturity, once you go through so much life, you still have several years to catch up.
you survive it all, and then you're like, okay, I can do this, so you don't worry so much, right?
Yes. Exactly.
And if we didn't go through trials, we wouldn't have those lessons and grow.
What a blessing it is for you to be here and share with us this presentation.
Thank you.
Because, now we have people out there that could be looking at you as that person too. And showing them that faith and reminding them that even if they feel like they're ordinary, they can be extraordinary. So,
That's so true.
Well, do you have any comments over there on your social chat thing? I'll let you take a look over there. I have Amy actually commented earlier, and I wanted to share this because she says last year's women's conference, we're going back to our previous presentation, last year's women's conference was really moved her spiritually, and I recommend all ladies come if you can.
Thank you for that testimonial.
Thank you, Amy. She's over here on the side. We're actually looking at her now. She was in the back, but she's over here now. And let's see. We have some new people that joined. We have Rebecca Cottingham, Mary Green. Hi, Hank and Mary. Brian Anderson. His wife's going to be here at the conference tomorrow.
I think Mary registered too.
Mary, oh good, oh yeah, that's right. She said she wasn't sure. She thought she had to pay, and I said, oh no, you just need to come. You just need to come. That's all.
Absolutely, bring a friend.
Yeah, and we have Deborah Fissner also on here from Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Is that near where you're from?
I'm not familiar with Boyertown.
Okay,
but it is Pennsylvania. Yay!
Yay! Nancy's originally from Pennsylvania. If you didn't know that. And then let's see, on our live CGI Digital Network, that's Facebook. And we have, we actually have Super Jim over here on YouTube, who thought he got ignored again. I'm sorry. And Mrs. Fixit is on, and that's all for now. But they're all saying hello from. Oh, Miss Fixit is from Ontario. So we have a couple on from Canada, and we're so happy to have all of y'all tonight. Brandy, were you able to scan that?
I just saw it. Beautiful Jory has added onto the chat. I think that some people were having a few issues with technical difficulties with the live stream, so they've been switching to YouTube.
Okay.
So
yeah, I've seen a few others come on since then. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and go to another commercial break, and then we'll see you back here in just a few seconds.
We'd like to offer you some free literature and a CD on today's program. We want to offer you the booklet, Immortality, God's Gift to the Saints. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have an immortal soul. You can gain immortality, but it is a gift from God. Get Immortality, God's Gift to the Saints. We also want you to get the full-length sermon CD, Enoch and Elijah by Mike James. Please, to get both these items free of charge, call toll-free 1-888-578-8791. That's 1-888-578-8791. Or you can order by visiting our website, www.cgi.org. That's www.cgi.org.
And we're back.
And they didn't surprise us this time.
Yeah, I know, that was a surprise last time. Sorry if you heard any off-color comments. No, it wasn't. Okay, well, as we continue our segments here, we would like to hear from you guys out there and let us know some of your favorite ordinary people that are inspiring in faith in you. Okay. Well, tonight I'm going to go ahead. About 1 year ago on this show, I actually gave this presentation, and I wanted to just kind of go over some of the verses and scriptures. We don't have backup slides because this was kind of like plan B because Anika was not able to be here with us tonight. And I was going through my presentations, and I thought, well, what can I bring back that might be very relevant to the Way Your Matters, the new Church Lady Conference? And I did one about compassion last year that I really loved, and I actually did it almost exactly 1 year ago today. I did it on the 21st, and
compassion is definitely a weightier matter.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. And so actually I was talking about, we had gotten together at my house and we were playing games, and we had been playing this game, a Monopoly Deal, and it's kind of like a little bit cutthroat, where you really get into this game and you start taking other people's property and different things, and my husband made a comment, and he was talking about having mercy, and well, at that point I started thinking about this scene from the VeggieTales movie Jonah. You know, where they're saying God's a God of mercy, mm-hmm. and then also in the restaurant, the little kids are saying, you know, they're fighting because they just had a wreck in their car and they're fighting, and they go in and they're all grouchy and everything, and the waiter brings a menu, and at the bottom of this list of fish and chips and all these different things, it says compassion. Oh, and it was one of the neatest little words to come up, because all these veggie kids were complaining that it was someone else's fault mm-hmm. that they had the wreck. Mm-hmm. So the first verse that I wanted to reference during this was Matthew 5:7, and it was, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." And what I talked about that night was compassion is actually hardwired into our brains.
Really?
It's hardwired into us. And also, I found this out because I was watching that show Brain Games, and they were talking about how we had this certain nerve. It was called the vagus nerve. Not Vegas, like Las Vegas.
No gambling involved.
No gambling, but VAGUS, vagus nerve. And it runs from the base of our brain all the way into our major organs. And it's very unique. It's the longest in the autonomic nervous system, and it's responsible for 3 parasympathetic nervous system responses and a large amount of our sympathetic nervous system responses. So, that was enough about science. That's a lot of science for me. So, so I know it's a great thing to have compassion, but it's interesting that nerve is controlling our parasympathetic and sympathetic responses. That God actually thought to give us a nerve for compassion, because it says that, or on the show, they had a simple test that they were giving to viewers, and it was 6 statements, and you can decide if you agree or disagree with these statements. So go ahead and play along with this. The first one is, success is based on the survival of the fittest. Do you agree or disagree? And you don't have to raise your hand and say,
Answer in the chat room.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. Okay, you just decide, and there's 6 different things, so you're gonna score yourself, agree, how many times you agree and how many times you disagree.
Okay, so I'm gonna tally mine here. Okay.
Success is based on the survival of the fittest.
Okay.
Number 2 is, when I'm frustrated, I release my anger by blowing up. And number 3 is, love is overrated. Number 4, for me, what's right is what I can get away with. Number 5, I admire a really clever scam. Oh, I hope that no one chooses that one. And number 6 is, I tell people what they want to hear, so they'll do what I want them to do. So, now let's see how you did. So if you agree to 1 or less of these statements, then you are a compassionate person. If you agree to 2 to 4, then you're somewhat compassionate, but a little bit less. But if you agree to 5 or more of these, you are borderline psychopathic behavior. Yikes. I know. Now, this test isn't always accurate. It's just a benchmark. But to be declared psychopathic, you would really need to be exhibiting other more intense behaviors. So don't take my word for that. So our mind actually works on this equation when it comes to compassion. And I love this equation. I remember this. And you know me, I'm the math teaching mom. So that's my email, by the way, if anyone doesn't have an email relationship with me. But our equation for compassion is benefits times the relationship has to be greater than the cost. Benefits times relationship is greater than the cost. And if that happens, then your brain automatically lends a helping hand. It's like your brain says, do this. So this formula helps determine why we choose some people, like our family or our friends or those close to us, over others when we're helping people, when we decide to help people. That's why we choose certain people to help before others. So the great news about all of this is that you can prime others for compassion by showing compassion. There was a really cool experiment that they did on that show. They actually put this chili out, and what they did was they came in with these people and they started talking to them like in a non-compassionate way. And the people walked away and they were left with all these bottles of hot sauce, and they said, we need you to add hot sauce to this so that the person can come back and eat it. And like the ones that were non-compassionate, they were like dumping the whole bottle in, wanting to make them really burn.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But the ones that were compassionate, even if they were like stumbling or fumbling, they were nice to them. Mm-hmm. So it really is, if you show compassion, and you'll get compassion back. Mm-hmm. And I really think that God programmed that into us with that little vagus nerve that they talked about. So engaging in compassion strengthens your compassion receptors. And the Bible also says in Matthew 9, verse 13, that you should go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I came not to call the righteous, but the sinners. And Christ would rather show mercy in our walk as Christians. So I'm sure that he knew that if we show mercy, that it can help many to increase the amount of mercy that they show to others. And finally, Colossians 3. I'm going to end with that. Verse 12 through 13, it says, "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive."
That is great. It reminds me, like several times at Church of God Big Sandy, I heard Dave Haver give a sermon where he talked about filling your teenager's tank before you ask them to do something. And this is very similar to, he would talk about how,
write that in the journal?
Maybe, because he usually did.
Journal.
Like, fill it with yeses, fill it with a lot of love and attention in downtimes. And then when there's an issue or whatever, your child will respond better because you filled their emotional tank.
Yes.
And I think when our compassion tanks are filled, we tend to give compassion to others as well. So it very much kind of backs up the exact same thing. And I think if your kids' emotional tanks are filled, they were more likely, like with your hot pepper story, not annoy their sibling or pick on their sibling. So that's a great formula there.
Yeah.
You have to raise the benefits and the relationship so that you'll get compassion.
Mm-hmm. That's true. All right. Well,
did anybody say their favorite person of faith?
I'm not sure. I don't see one. I don't see one. Let me check on. Okay, we have Bill Lucenhyde Sr. on here now. And I'm laughing at his comment. I'm going to go ahead and share it with everyone. It says, "These gals look much better than those two dudes on Starter Sabbath." 2 dudes? Nancy's on here.
Oh, I think he means when we do a split screen with him and Wes at one point. So I hope, Bill, since you're coming to my house to stay in a few weeks, that you are talking about you and Wes, because we can put some hot sauce in your chili.
Oh my goodness. And they'll probably put mushrooms in it too, unfortunately, if Wes
Yes,
cooks.
if Wes makes it, there will be mushrooms.
I miss that chili.
Pollock chili.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to our final commercial, and we'll see you right back as soon as it's over. Okay. Okay.
Hi, we'd like to offer you 2 booklets on today's program. We want to offer you, Is Jesus Really God? There's a lot of controversy about who and what Jesus was. We also want to offer you, What is God? Of all the theological questions that evoke controversy in the ancient church, the question of who and what God was one of the major questions. It's even a major question today. You can order by visiting our website, www.cgi.org. That's www.cgi.org.
Welcome back, everyone. It looks like we're a little lopsided here, but that's okay. We want to thank everyone for joining us this week. We want to thank Nancy White for sacrificing her time on her normal program for Friday night.
You're welcome. It's
And
great to be here.
Awesome. And we thank Brandy Webb also for driving in a long way and coming to be with us.
I've had fun.
And we hope that you join us next week for, we'll be back with Jeff. He's up here now. And we have Amy, of course, and we have my husband, Bob. But we thank you so much for being here, and we want you to have a good night, and may God bless your Sabbath. Goodbye, everyone.